The streets were alive with something special. Petrol stations on every corner. Young men saving every penny, not for holidays, not for suits, for speed. The 1970s was a decade that tested Britain in every way. Economic struggles, power cuts, political chaos. But through all of it, British engineers never stopped building, never stopped dreaming. And what they created during that decade was remarkable. While Italy had Ferrari, while Germany had Porsche, Britain had something different. Something raw, something that felt alive in your hands the moment you touched the wheel. Today we are counting down 10 of the greatest British sports cars of the 1970s. Cars that were built with passion, driven with pride, and remembered forever. And number 1 could genuinely beat a Ferrari on the right road. Let's go! Number 10. Triumph TR7, 1975. Triumph called it the shape of things to come. The TR7 arrived in 1975 with a wedge-shaped body that looked like nothing else on British roads. Sharp angles, low stance, a face that said it meant business. Under the bonnet sat a 2.0-litre four-cylinder engine. Not the most powerful car on this list, but that was never the point. The TR7 was light, nimble, and surprisingly fun to throw into a corner. British families saw it parked outside and stopped to stare. It looked like a car from the future. And in 1975, Britain it was. Triumph sold over 112,000 of them, a commercial success that proved Britain still knew how to make a sports car that ordinary people wanted to own. Number 9. Lotus Esprit, Mark VI, 1976. When the Lotus Esprit arrived in 1976, people thought it had fallen from a spacecraft. Designed by Giugiaro, the same man behind some of Italy's finest, the Esprit was stunning. Flat, angular, dramatic, it looked like a drawing that had been brought to life. The 2.0-litre Lotus engine gave it genuine performance. But the real magic was in how it handled. Lotus built cars around the driver. Every input felt precise. Every corner felt natural. And then, in 1977, James Bond drove one underwater in The Spy Who Loved Me. The world went wild. Overnight, the Lotus Esprit became one of the most recognizable cars on the planet. Britain had its own supercar, and it was beautiful. Number 8. Jensen Interceptor, Oxford's 1970s continuation. The Jensen Interceptor had started in the late 1960s, but through the early 1970s, it reached its absolute peak. Big, bold, and beautifully proportioned. The Interceptor wore an Italian body by Vignale over a powerful American Chrysler 5.8 engine. This was Britain doing things its own way, borrowing the best from everywhere and making something uniquely magnificent. The interior was pure luxury, deep leather seats, thick carpet, a dashboard that felt handcrafted, because it was. Jensen built each Interceptor by hand in West Bromwich, not far from the factory floor, not far from ordinary Britain. But the car itself was anything but ordinary. Those lucky enough to own one never forgot the feeling. Number 7. TVR 3000M N 1972. TVR was never a company that followed rules. The 3000M arrived in 1972 from a small factory in Blackpool. Yes, Blackpool, the British seaside town that gave the world one of its most exciting sports cars. A fiberglass body kept the weight down. A Ford V6 engine pushed it forward with genuine aggression. The result was a car that could reach 60 miles per hour in under 8 seconds. In 1972, that was seriously fast. The 3000M had no electronic assistance, no driver aids, no safety nets. Just you, the road, and a machine that demanded your full attention every single mile. That was the TVR way. Raw, honest, brilliant. Number 6. Aston Martin 5.8, 1972. Some cars are simply born elegant. The Aston Martin 5.8 arrived as a refined evolution of the classic DBS. And what an evolution it was. Under that long, muscular bonnet sat a hand-built 5.3-litre V8 engine producing over 300 brake horsepower. The sound alone was worth the price of admission. Inside, every surface was hand-stitched leather and polished walnut. Craftsmen at Newport Pagnell spent days on a single dashboard, weeks on a single car. This was not mass production. This was art. The Aston Martin 5.8 became the choice of British success. Politicians owned them, businessmen drove them, and a certain fictional spy made them immortal. In the 1970s, if you had arrived in an Aston Martin 5.8, you had truly arrived. Number 5. JaguarEType Series 3. 1971. Enzo Ferrari once called the E-Type the most beautiful car ever made. He was not wrong. By 1971, the E-Type had grown into its Series 3 form, a wider body, flared arches, and now a magnificent 5.3-litre Phi-12 engine under that impossibly long bonnet. 12 cylinders, perfectly balanced, whisper smooth at low speed, ferocious when pushed. The Series 3 could reach 150 miles per hour. In 1971, Britain, that was an almost unimaginable number, and yet here was Jaguar, a British company from Coventry, making it reality. The E-Type Series 3 was the final chapter of a legend, and it made sure that final chapter was the most dramatic of all. Number 4, Morgan Plus 8 Mars. 1968 to 1980s, Morgan had been building cars since 1909, and by the 1970s they still built them almost exactly the same way. Ashwood frame, aluminium body, hand-assembled in a small factory in Malvern Link, Worcestershire. Workers who had been there for decades. Traditions passed down like family recipes. But the Plus 8 was no museum piece. Rover's lightweight 3.5-litre Phi-8 engine gave it explosive acceleration, 0 to 60 in around 6 seconds. With almost no weight to push, the Plus 8 simply flew. It looked ancient. It drove like lightning. That contradiction was the Morgan magic, and buyers loved every single second of it. Number 3, Triumph TR6 1969 to 1976. The TR6 is perhaps the most beloved British sports car of its entire era. Straight-six engine, 2.5 litres. A proper growl on startup that made neighbours turn around. The body was restyled by Karmann of Germany, wider at the rear, muscular at the shoulders, clean across the bonnet. It was effortlessly handsome. America loved the TR6. Britain worshipped it. Drivers across the world found that this was a sports car you could actually live with. Comfortable enough for long journeys, wild enough for Sunday mornings on empty country roads. Over 94,000 TR6 were built before production ended in 1976. Every single one of them found a home. Some of them are still being driven today, and they still look magnificent doing it. Number 2, Jaguar XJS 1975. When Jaguar launched the XJS in 1975, some people were confused. It was not an E-Type replacement. It was not trying to be. The XJS was something entirely different, a grand touring car of extraordinary ability and almost shocking beauty. That V12 engine, borrowed from the E-Type but refined further, gave the XJS a top speed approaching 150 miles per hour, covered in near silence, with the smoothness of a Swiss watch, the long bonnet, the flying buttress rear pillars, the wide stance. The XJS looked like a car that had been designed in a dream. Over time it became one of the most iconic shapes British motoring ever produced. A car that only got better with age, and it came within a heartbeat of our number 1 spot. Number 1, Aston Martin 5.8 Vantage, 1977. In 1977, Aston Martin released something that changed everything. The V8 Vantage, same beautiful body as the standard V8. But underneath, everything had changed. High compression pistons, bigger carburetors, revised camshafts. The engineers at Newport Pagnell had quietly turned up every dial. The result was 380 brake horsepower, a 0 to 60 time of around 5.3 seconds, a top speed of 170 miles per hour. In 1977, that made it the fastest production car in Britain. Some tests suggested it was the fastest production car in the world, faster than a Ferrari 308, faster than a Porsche 911 Turbo, faster than almost anything with a road number plate. Britain's hand-built, handcrafted, hand-finished Aston Martin, faster than Italy's finest. The V8 Vantage did not just compete with Ferrari, it defeated it. The 1970s was not an easy time for Britain, but standing in any of these cockpits, gripping that leather steering wheel, hearing that engine settle into its idle, none of that seemed to matter. These were not just machines, they were a statement, a declaration that Britain still had something extraordinary to offer the world. Craftsmanship, character, speed. The men who built these cars worked with their hands. They took pride in every weld, every stitch, every adjustment, and the drivers who bought them felt that pride every time they turned the key. These cars will never be forgotten, because some things are simply too good to forget. If you enjoyed this journey through Britain's greatest decade of sports cars, subscribe to Old Britain Garage. Every week we go back to the roads, the factories, and the stories that made British motoring truly great. We'll see you in the garage.